All right, so I just finished watching a video from CJ's artist Hazakim. One of the members of Hazakim, I didn't realize it was two in one group, but he explained, his intention behind his diss track against Ruslan, the rapper who went after Shaolin on this track, Random Thoughts, and he explained about how, even though he apologized for his actions, he still thought that Ruslan was a bit, you know, on a diss side versus just being concerned, and and he thought that Ruslan could handle it better versus calling him a nerdy theological rapper. And another thing he's mentioned was that Ruslan, you know, he kind of mentioned that Shaolin is kind of irrelevant, and then that's why he said the same thing about has been called has he called him a has been in his track. So a lot of things he said clear up the air. I finally saw why he did what he did, and he also brought up Reach Records and why Shaolin had felt the way he felt, and he felt that Christian hip rap, Christian rap. He's saying that when he got into CH, he saw from how it grew from Stephen Hill and the Bible verses up until so now people can make a living off of it. He saw it grew, and he's seen now how success has become the biggest issue with CHH, because now it's we got now that we have artists like Lecrae, who is on a Breakfast Club and on a Breakfast Club and all that. He's on he's on every TV station, every mainstream talk show, every mainstream radio show. He's on Wild 'N Out last Thursday. So he's seen that, and he's seen that Lecrae, he changed, and he made CJs to where now people can't get along. He kind of divided the whole fan base. He said he was like he didn't really mean to do it, but he was like it kind of what his fame kind of divided the whole fan base. Like I'm a Christian rapper, I'm a Christian that raps, or I'm just a rapper who happens to be Christian type of deal. And the fact that like people won't support other artists, that's not Reach Records. And a lot of things he said I actually agree with. I said time and time again. I actually did a video on Lecrae a couple of weeks back, and I was saying the same things. I mean, I didn't really say anything about the support, but definitely, I see a lot of CHH fans I know in real life.
So much better, Mario. You hear me?
Yes.
I feel so much better. You know where I think your headphones is? The white one?
Yeah.
Up under the bed with the cover over it.
Okay.
Under your bed.
Anyway, I'm back. But what I was saying earlier was that a lot of things he was saying I agree with, because like the CHH fans I know in real life, I actually know in person, not just on YouTube or on the internet. Like, they don't really listen, they don't really talk about the artists us either, like Andy and Lecrae and stuff like that. I mean, one of my boys, I know from church, he listened to like Propaganda, The Truth, and stuff like that. He's more on the older side of CJ spectrum, but like I talk guys like around my age, because I'm my 20s, so like I'm like that millennial Generation Z, you know I'm like that millennial Generation Z, audience that Lecrae has been, you know, seeking after for the last, 5+ years now. I'm that, I'm that demographic that Lecrae's been going after, that teen, young adult demographic that he's been, so good at, and I got him to where he could go to any, secular station, he could go to any hip hop station, and he could get mad respect for it. Another thing Hazakim said that kind of, struck a chord with me was the fact that he said Lecrae biggest at the secular artists so much to where it got a lot of Christian artists thinking that thinking that they don't need Christian rap no more. They don't need to listen to rap that raps the gospel. And that was one of my biggest problems with Lecrae is that, he talks very highly about Chance and Kendrick, but he will never talk about like Trip Lee or, Trip Lee, even though Trip Lee's part of his label, Shaolin, The Truth, Ambassador, artists that, that helped him get to where he's at right now. He would never spoke to people about those people in a mainstream light. He would not do that. And that, even Dayton said that, a couple months back when he did that video on him. So that's my biggest problem with Lecrae, is the fact that he'll big up Kendrick and Chance and say that I'm the same as them, even though they curse their music. Chance great with how God, Chance. I kind of consider Chance a gospel rapper just because his music, has sonically his music is definitely gospel, but lyrically, it's hard to listen to Chance when he it's hard to listen to Chance when he uses F-bombs in his lyrics. Even though I'll be kind of hypocrite saying that, because I do listen to like Joey Bad. I listen to a little bit of Kendrick, J. Cole, Nas, rappers who curse their music. But like when I listen to music that's supposed to be Christian or that has comes from a Christian perspective, I expect to be like no curse words in the music and lyrics. That's just me. Part of the reason why I enjoy Christian rap, part of the reason why I got into Christian rap is because I had the fact that there's good lyrical rap without curse words, and I know you have, secular rappers who don't curse like Lupe, in Lupe's older songs, and you had other rappers like that, but like, it was rare, especially back when I got saved, back in the 2011, to hear like strong lyrical content without any F-bombs, without any of that stuff. So that's why I appreciate Lecrae, when I got saved, because like when I first heard Jesus music, I was turned up. I was like, oh shoot, back in 11, it was like the end of 2010 when I first heard Jesus music. I was like, oh shoot, where was this all my life, and then I just looked him up on YouTube and I saw that his video already got like 2 million views. So because the song been out for over 5 years now, and like it blew my mind how big he was, how much of a following he had already, even though he wasn't, top of the food chain yet. But Lecrae, was getting famous. He almost got signed by Jay-Z during that time period. I remember seeing videos about that. He was doing interviews with, John Piper and stuff like that. So like Lecrae in 2011, was kind of transitioning from being just this hardcore CHH artist, who's very theological, to now being the more socially conscious, positive rapper that, that he tries to be, that he claims to be. And I saw that transition with my own eyes. Again, I got into CHH right when Lecrae was transitioning from, to, the cross movement, theological rap, to now being this positive, poppy, hip hop that more goes along with like a Tori Kelly or a, I said Tori Kelly, she's not gospel, a V Rose or a Brit Nicole, stuff like that. The more pop Christian songs that attracts the CEM audience. And I saw that with my own eyes. Because again, I was keeping up with Lecrae. I was watching his interviews. I remember the first time I heard him say he's not a Christian rapper was back in 2011. I think it was the Grammys. I think it was that interview with him with Tadashi. That was in Atlanta, and the dude interviewed him. I think I believe it's still on YouTube. Y'all could look. Yeah, if y'all know what I'm talking about, please comment below. There's an interview with Lecrae and Tadashi. Did an interview on the streets of downtown Atlanta, and he said, "I'm not a Christian rapper," and like that. And then he was talking about like Bun B and Lupe Fiasco and Ludacris. Like like it started before 2012. A lot of people say 2012 when Lecrae changed. I would say 2011 was when Lecrae was changing. Because people forget that Lecrae was invited to BET Hip Hop Awards in that time. People forget that. Like the BET Hip Hop Awards, like that was what got Lecrae noticed, because when he was in BET Hip Hop Awards, like that was it. Like after that, it was just straight up. Like his career just got up, 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 and it still continue to go up to this day, So I know I said a lot. I said a mouthful about Lecrae, but you know, I have been a CJ fan that long. I still respected what the older cats did. I respect guys like The Truth. I respect guys like Ambassador. I respect guys like Flame, and I respect those guys like Show Baraka, and guys who've been doing it for 10 plus years now. I respect those guys because those guys what kept me from listening to secular rap. Those were the guys who I listened to when I was trying to learn about God. Those are the guys I listened to when I they had no right to really disciple me. Like those were the guys I looked up to. I mean, even though I was a big Lecrae fan, I'm still a Lecrae fan. I like guys who keep consistent. Okay, I could talk about I glorify God. I'm a Christian. I love God. I love God. And God come first in my interviews. I could talk about politics. I could talk about who is the best rapper, but first and foremost, I'm a Christian. If I you're going to see different, you're going to hear different response from me. You're not just going to hear, oh, we need to be more, Black Lives Matter, or oh, we need to be, oh, that I like Chance, I like Kendrick, but I'll say those are great, but we got guys who are Christian who are just as nice. We got Gemstones, we got D1, we got Dayton, we got Bizzo, guys who are Christians but just as nice as a Kendrick and a J. Cole. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see balance. I want to see like, okay, I could talk about worldly issues, but at the same time, I can talk to you about what I believe in as well. I could tell you that I'm against gay marriage, I'm against abortion, but I also don't judge those people. I also don't condemn those people. I also, love those people, but I just don't agree with their lifestyle. Like that's what I want to see when I see a Christian being interviewed by the secular artist. That's why I like D1, because even though D1 was never considered a Christian rapper, and a lot of people still don't consider him a Christian rapper, I like his stance. I like how he's, I like how, he's not afraid to tell people he's a Christian, on like a Sway or or on the real, when he say I was gonna wait till marriage. I like that because I'm like, we need more of that in the Christian space, and a lot of people don't check for D1 because D1 was too too quote unquote hip hop for the mainstream. That's why like D1 is not he's not considered in the same league as Lecrae, even though D1 has had mainstream success. D1 has been interviewed by countless mainstream artists. D1 started off as a secular rapper. He's not going to be on Lecrae's level because of the fact that he's authentically hip hop and authentically Christian. Meaning that he's very street. He's not. His music is mainly for the inner city urban black community, and like he's very Christian in the sense that he's not afraid to say confess Christ in his lyrics. Like he's not just this person say I'm a Christian, yeah, but he says that I love Jesus. I bring scripture in my music, but at the same time I talk about social justice as well. Like D1, I feel like it's kind of like a balance between both worlds, D1 and Gemstones, because they both been in secular realm. They both was, Gemstones was about to get signed. Like Gemstones was signed and everything. He was about to be famous. He knew Kanye West. He knew Jay-Z. Like he knew all the big names in hip hop. He was competing against Drake. Like son, like Gemstones was that dude. When he's in the world, and that like, cause I listened to his old songs, I was like, dang, this dude was nice back then, but like he cursed a lot. He was saying F bomb, F this. I don't get this girl. Like he was like this. He was like your typical, your typical, rapper. But when he got saved, I was like, yo, that's so dope. And oh yeah, and No Malice as well. I keep forgetting about No Malice. No Malice as well. No Malice was the top of the food chain. And like he was, he had hit records. He was, with the Clips with his brother Pusha T. He was like one of the biggest names in hip hop. Like he was literally at the top. Like Gemstones and D1. They was secular, but they was never on No Malice though. No Malice was like up here. Like he had platinum records. He was huge. But son told him gave his life to God. He gave his life to the Lord in '09, and ever since then, he's been kind of forgotten. Like the last secular interview I could think of. Well, the last interview he did was with Dish, but like the last major interview, that people would pay attention to was the Breakfast Club interview he did in 2012, when what was that? Oh yeah, when Charlamagne was saying, do you still get P? You guys still get P? What you call a girl's private part? Because at the time he just got he been in Christ. It was his first Christian album, so like a lot of people still thought he was secular, but like he was like, nah, I'm done with that, and this dude was a seasoned brand. This dude, he's in his 40s, so like he's a veteran in hip hop. So yeah, so I say all those things to say that, man, I mean, I agree with Hazakim a lot. I just wish he didn't have to diss Rusan the way he did. But I kind of understand why after watching the video he did. Here's the video. So Tony of Hazakim reflects on events surrounding Shy. That after watching that video, I understand where he was coming from when he was talking about how he felt like Shaolin, people like Shaolin and the Philly movement kind of got forgotten once Lecrae got big, because right before Lecrae got mainstream, the Truth was big. Like the Truth, people forget about the Truth. People forget how big the Truth was. I mean, and shout out to Track Stars, who I'm gonna give a shout out to next video, for explaining that, because again, back in 2011 when Lecrae was getting fame, the Truth was like the top of the food chain in the CJ genre. Like he was like the Truth. Like before the reason why I started listening to CJ in the first place was because of the Truth. He did an interview with what's that show? Literary Voice on BET with Corey Coco Brother, and I was like, oh, a gospel rapper. He seems pretty cool. Let me check him out. And ever since then, I've been into CJ. And he said he did songs with Ty Tribbett and Kirk Franklin. Like when I first heard of gospel rap, I always thought of like it was more a lines between like gospel, like black gospel music, like Kirk Franklin and Ty Tribbett, Kim Burrell and Fred Hammond, that type of stuff, and rap, so with a rap format. Like I always thought of gospel rap as like your churchy type of rap, but when I started getting to CJ, I finally realized that CJ leans more the CCM audience versus the gospel audience, and like I was trying to see why. But the Truth, he bridged the gap. He bridged the gap between the CCM audience and the mainstream black gospel music, and he was the only person to do that, really, because nobody since the Truth has done it, and like people forget that's the audience that that knows hip hop, at least a younger section of that group, because again, a lot of black kids who grew up in the church listen to hip hop. Like if you go to any youth event, any youth event in any black church, 9 times out of 10, they live in the hood. They listen to T.I., they listen to all these rappers. They live with their either grandparents or they got a single mom. So they live in that environment, so they can relate better with the young people in that in that section, in that sector, versus the CCM audience where they have to be, watered down. They have to be more. No, I don't want to say watered down, but they have to be more. They have to be less. They have to be less. They have to be more. Proper, and they have to be. I mean, more. Tighten up, because in the CCM world, it's mainly white. It's mainly white suburban Christians. So you have to be more cleaned up, versus in the black gospel music, like, we already know what you come from. We live in a hood. We know, we 9 out of 10 we've been in your circumstances. So, like, culturally, I would thought that CHH would have leaned more towards that in the spectrum versus the CCM audience, where it's more white and suburban. But because of the fact that a lot of black Christians have a problem with rap, and they still till to this day have a problem with rap, they had to go to the CCM audience, because CCM audience embrace guys like Toby Mac, embrace guys like Skillets and Grits, guys who are more Christian rock and Christian pop. So, like, they felt they had to go to that audience in order to get success and make a living off their craft. So that's why the black gospel audience, never supported CHH, because of the fact that hip hop, in church has kind of been like polar opposites. The church has always been considered out of touch with the world. It's always considered, out of touch with what's going on. Like, you don't really hear too many black pastors, preach about police brutality, and preach about other things. Like, when you go to a black church, the main things they preach about is like homosexuality and the prosperity gospel and stuff like that. And women shouldn't wear pants and stuff like that. Like, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so I'm speaking from my experience. And, like, those are things that you mainly hear about when you go to a black church, particularly a black Pentecostal church. So when because again, they had a problem with Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin, made Stomp. A lot of the black church was like, I ain't feeling Kirk Franklin, And now Kirk Franklin is considered, the most gospel, the most, accepted person in the gospel industry, even though Kirk Franklin was making hip hop records 20 years ago. Kirk Franklin opened the doors for guys like Gospel Gangsters and The Truth, and Shaolin and stuff like that. So, like, Kirk Franklin gets a lot of respect in the CHH community, even though he's he's more contemporary gospel. So I say all that to say is that Lecrae, even though Lecrae is big, even though Lecrae is famous, we forget that it didn't start in 2012. It didn't start with church clothes. It started before that. It started like around 2009, 2010, when when The Truth fell. He had his little allegation. He had his little sin issue. He fell in sin, and then we had to get a new chief in town. We had to get a new chief. Lecrae was already getting popular by then. He made Rebel, which was pretty much put him from being another Christian rapper to now being one of the best in the industry. Like, the Track Stars even interviewed Lecrae back in '08. So, like, it shows that it didn't start from 2012. It started like 2009, 2010. Whenever CHH would start finally getting out that corny, whack stage that a lot of people thought it was. A lot of people were saying Christian rap was whack, it was corny. Back in the 90s and 2000s, even though the 2000s had great artists, people still had that stigma towards Christian rap. But now that you see, Lecrae, it's like, oh, okay, where this been all my life, So my overall thoughts, is that, I'm gonna continue supporting the artists I like. I still like Lecrae. I don't hate Lecrae. I don't hate, anybody, in CHH game. I respect what they do. I respect the fact that they can make a living off their art. I know. I ain't gonna lie. If I can make a living off what I do, which is spoken word poetry, I'll very well do that. And and I have to work a 9 to 5 and stuff like that. That'd be so convenient for me because I gotta just focus on writing poetry. I don't have to worry about being broke because one of the things I'm sick of is the starving artist mindset that a lot of people have. A lot of people say that, oh, if you're a creative person, you can't make money if you're living. I'm like, I'm tired of hearing that. You hear it from your parents, you hear it from your teachers, you hear it from your counselors. I mean, it's just so frustrating for me as a college student to hear a starving artist mindset. So that's why I thank God that we have Christians who can make a living with their art. So not so. With all that being said, I'ma support my artists. That's why I like. That's why I make one reason. That's why I like these conversations because it causes more dialogue, and it causes more people to do videos and causes more like comment sections. Like I like these conversations, and like that's why I promote artists that I feel like that's not being promoted enough. Like I keep saying D1. Gemstones. Gemstones, one of the best rappers in the world right now, is not being promoted enough. Who else? Gemstones. No Malice. No Malice. Even though Malice doesn't really rap as much as he used to. I still support what he does. No Malice. Like there are like a lot of artists out there that needs to get support. Humble Tip. Dope artists. Jafia Life. Like son, Jafia Life. Jafia Life has been forgotten about. I mean, Jafia Life is just like forgotten about. After his last album, right after his last album dropped, he was just forgot about him. Because I mean, his last album came out right around time Anomaly came out, which was Lecrae's biggest album yet. And I feel like Jafar Life is super underrated. Like he is even though Jafar Life is kind of different, you know, from like the Basta and Truth and stuff like that. He's one of those really street, hardcore hip hop dudes that we need. I mean, he doesn't consider us a CJ's artist. He doesn't consider a Christian rapper either. But at the same time, at the same time, he's very he doesn't mind sharing his faith in his music. He talks about like real life struggles, growing up in the hood, growing up in Philly, but he does it from a biblical lens, and like that's why I like Jafai Life. He's very urban. His beats are pretty good. For the most part. He's kind of what a lot of people consider the Nas of CHH because he has that socially conscious East Coast boom bap type of style, but you know he doesn't get enough talk on CJ's community. Like I felt like he should have been promoted more back in 2014 and 2015 when his album was still fresh in people's minds. Um, Dayton, dope. I mean Dayton, Bizzle. I won't consider Bizzle like underrated because he does get a lot of respect from Christians, but and he was on DJ Vlad for his stance against gay marriage, but I do like Bizzle. I do feel like Bizzle. You know I feel like Bizzle and his gang of people got enough money can get more recognition in terms of like veterans in the gospel realm because again when we talk about veterans you always talk about cross movement and stuff like that and a ton of rats and gospel gangsters, but like Seven, like Seven, the rapper Seven, like he's been in the game for a long time. He's been rapping since '01. I was 5 years old. Like this dude been rapping that long, but he wasn't accepted by the Christian or by the world because the way he looked, the way he taught, the way he believed in. You know, he's this hardcore Christian. You know, like he talks about persecution, he talks about suffering for Christ. Like he talks about things that makes people uncomfortable. But Seven is one of those dudes that, you know, hey, I use the N word, I'm not perfect, but you know, at least I'm not afraid to share my faith. At least I'm not afraid to give you the gospel. I'm not afraid to give you the truth. I'm not afraid to give you that hard, real talk. And like that's why I like Seven. You know, Seven is one of those dudes that, you know, that's like, I feel like that's gonna get persecuted. I feel like, you know, that's the closest thing we got from a, you know, a Peter, a Stephen type of persecution we saw in the book of Acts. He's like the closest thing we got in the CJ community, because he's very raw, very hip hop, but very you know, very ride or die, because he was in the gang and stuff like that, and he has that struggle of being, he was very, because he was very ride or die for the devil. Like he literally worshipped the devil when he was in the world. So like he understands what it's like being, in sin and being in darkness. He understands that very well. I mean, even after he got saved, he did an interview saying that he went to jail, he had a baby mama. So like he can relate to the streets very well. But the thing is, he talks about Christianity a lot. He talks about Jesus so much to the point where it turns a lot of people off. So that's why the world, leans more to Lecrae, because he's one of those rappers who talks about Jesus, but he doesn't shove it down your throat. He doesn't make it to where it's like it's overwhelmingly Christian. So with that being said, I just thank God for we have some conversations. I know it's a long video, but hopefully we will have more artists, who could be in mainstream, who could be in the mainstream. It's not just because they say something about, not just because they say I'm against homosexuality, or not just because or not just become like a one-hit wonder, but they can actually stay in the mainstream and still be authentically Christian. Like I kind of wish we had more of that, outside of Lecrae. I mean, D1. I mean, yes, he's technically in both categories, but like at the same time, D1, he's kind of forgotten about, because he's too street to be Christian. He's too Christian to be street, and it's kind of sad that, it's kind of sad that the Christian hip hop is kind of monopolized in a way. So, but I just hope we see more diversity and more, more like perspectives on how do we win souls to the kingdom of God. So with all that said, this is Mario here, signing out.